This podcast is for SEO professionals, and each week, with the help of our wonderful guests, we discuss the important stuff that actually affects our careers and progression, but sadly often doesn't get talked about. You know, the invaluable soft and interpersonal skills that are often taken for granted, such as the skills we need for listening, time management, communication, and more. We also talk about the big issues that affect us and our careers, such as burnout, imposter syndrome, self-belief, saying no, plus other big issues and obstacles. With this podcast, we want to share knowledge on topics that unlock our listeners' true potential and enhance not only their careers, but all parts of their lives. So, are you ready to prioritize your own personal growth and career development? Then let's crack on with this week's episode. Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the SEO Mindset podcast, where your hosts are myself, Sarah McDowell, and the ever so fabulous Tazmin Suleman, where new episodes go out every single Thursday. This week is a special episode. Each season, we invite our good friend Jack Chambers-Ward, host of the fabulous Search with Candour podcast, to join us for a good old natter about a certain topic. This time is extra special as we have an announcement to share with you all, and I'm very excited to play you the episode so you can find out what that is. Before we get into the episode, just a quick reminder about how you can support me and Tazmin and the podcast. So we are set up on Buy Me a Coffee, where you can give us a one-off donation, and there's a link in the show notes if you fancy doing that. And a massive shout out to everyone who has already done that and supported us. One of our most recent supporters is Sabia from Nisa Digital, so a massive shout out and thank you to you and everyone else who's done that. And we have a newsletter. So again, head on over to the show notes, sign up to our newsletter, and you can keep up to date with all goings on for the podcast, like new episodes, what we're up to, thoughts, ideas. Yeah, we'll just keep you updated, and you can unsubscribe at any time. Are you on the edge of your seat? Are you ready to find out what this announcement is? I know how to build some tension, don't I? Of course you are. Let's get stuck in. Hello, both.
Hello, Sarah.
How are we doing? So we are recording during our lunch break, aren't we? And in Worcester, the sun is shining for me. I don't know about you guys.
In Milton Keynes, it is shiny. It was pouring a minute ago, and I thought, how am I going to go out for my lunchtime walk? I'm not going to wear a raincoat. It's not in August.
It's probably shining in Norwich, but I'm in a cupboard that is the podcast studio here in Candour, so there are no windows, there is no ventilation in this room, so I think it looks quite nice if I just peer out into the office over there. It's been like kind of grey but kind of humid over the last couple of days after it being like swelteringly hot for a few days, so kind of a mixture, you know.
It does make me laugh because whenever I'm out walking Benny the dog, famous Benny the dog, and I'm having conversations with people that I meet, because we've seemed to have quite a bit of rain over the last couple of days. People are like, that's it, summer is over, no more.
The most British conversation you can have. Yeah, exactly.
But we are not here to discuss the weather, are we?
No.
Not an especially interesting podcast topic.
We have far more exciting,
and we have a very exciting announcement, don't? So
the clue is that I'm here, right? I'm the big clue.
What are you doing here, Jack? Again, remind me.
I know, right? The fact that all three of us are on screen together, whether you're listening to this on the SEO Mindset podcast feed or watching this or listening to this on the Search with Candour feed, we're back. We're teaming up again. And this isn't just me being a guest on the SEO Mindset podcast. This is a full crossover on both feeds to announce our live podcast collaboration once again. Round 4, I believe it is now, of our collabs. Even though technically I wasn't at the last one, You guys have done 4. This will be my 3rd.
Yeah, apparently a wedding is more important, isn't it, Jack?
My wife's family is they dragged me whether I liked it or not, all the way up north, the opposite end of the country, away from Brighton. And I missed the last one, but we'll be back now coming up in October when Brighton SEO returns. We're going to be on the Wednesday, the 2nd of October, the night before, like we always do, starting at 7 o'clock. We're back, and we're going to be doing more live podcast in front of a studio audience. You will have Q&As and all that good stuff. You guys can get involved. You've probably potentially already heard the previous episodes we've done. They've been on our podcast feeds as well. So it's going to be more of that good stuff. But we have a new topic. We're going to have new sponsors, and it's going to be very exciting.
Tazmin, do you want to tell our listeners what the topic is going to be?
I will, but first I want to say how super excited I am because it is becoming a Brighton tradition. We are the new Brighton tradition. And if you are in Brighton and have never been to one of these live podcasts, then they are super, super fun. This time we are going to be talking about career planning, but career planning in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming, is doable, and just feels authentic.
I really can't wait. And yeah, it still blows my mind that this whole thing, this whole collaboration that we've got going on now started off as an idea. It started off as a conversation of, wouldn't it be nice if we did this thing? And we just seem to all roll with it. We do it. And it's one of my favorite times of the year when we do our live podcast, because it gives us such a unique opportunity, because usually with a podcast it is one way, isn't it? It's people listening to us and we're going through their headphones, going through their speakers, but it's usually one way. Whereas with a live podcast, because we are inviting you to come and watch, to come and be part of the live recording, you get to be part of that conversation. And each time, you've already mentioned the Q&A, Jack, but I feel like it's much more. It's less of audience members asking us questions, but
definitely, yeah,
everyone shares their own stories, experiences, and people get really vulnerable, don't they? People really open up, talk to us about how they're feeling, or how a certain issue, topic, or whatever we're discussing on their night, how it affects them. And it's such a lovely way to start the conference. And I feel as well that the live podcast is an alternative to lots of other events as well, because there's lots of other things that you can go to that involves drinking, socializing, networking, more of the party vibe. Whereas with the live podcast, I think it's more, I don't know, it's a bit more tranquil. It's more calming. It's a relaxed space. Yes, you're still coming and you're meeting other people, but the atmosphere is a lot more calm, isn't it? And a lot more chilled. And yeah, and we always receive really good feedback, don't we?
Yeah, I think a lot of people say we've had that very welcoming environment, I think was the words that people used a lot of the time, and how rare that can be, especially at big conferences and stuff. I think it was a really nice thing where we've crafted this little open, welcoming section of the long weekend essentially that is Brighton SEO.
I think somebody said it was one of the most human SEO events that they had ever been to.
Human.
Yeah, that was the word they used, the most human. And I think it is very personal, very personable. You can come as yourself, be yourself, and that I think is the difference. You don't have to put on a front. And as we've been doing more and more of them and building on that vibe that we want to have carried through, and people are beginning to recognize what sort of event it is, and we're getting more and more people through and joining us, it's becoming a really beautiful thing.
Definitely. And we need to mention the venue, because I remember the first time I walked into the space. So the venue that we have is called Projects the Lanes, which is like a 10-minute walk away from where Brighton SEO is. So it's really central, really easy to get to. But I remember walking in the room and I think a gasp came out. I was like, it's so beautiful because it's dome shaped, isn't it? High ceilings, circular. And I mean, me explaining the venue won't do it justice. You're just going to have to come and check it out yourself, or but the venue is beautiful. And yeah, it's such a, I just love being in that space as well. And also a shout out to the people who help us make this happen. So obviously there are costs involved, but we always want to try and keep this accessible, and we want to be able to offer tickets to as many people as possible. So at the moment it is free. You don't have to pay to attend, and you get free food, free drinks, free snacks. There's a goodie bag as well, and I have to say the goodie bag was impressive last time. But these things do cost, so it's so great to have the support of others in the industry. So just want to do a shout out to the main sponsors. So the sponsors that have helped us from the start, from the get-go. So the likes of Systrix, Stat, Majestic. And we can't wait to get support from others in the industry, because whenever we have conversations with other people, we talk to them about the event, you can really tell that they want to be part of it, and they want to support, and they want to get involved, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of that, as I said earlier, the kind of room for this kind of event in the industry. I think there was a lot of the feedback we got was, as you said, Tazmin, it feels human, it feels unique, it feels different to a lot of the other networking and kind of marketing events that happen. Plus it's a live podcast in there as well. Plus there's the participation side of it that I think really, as you said, Sarah, like differentiates the live podcast element. It's not a Q&A, it's actually people sharing their stories. There was some brilliant feedback we got that really resonated with me, that somebody said, I didn't have to say anything, but I still felt heard, which I thought was a really fascinating way to think about it, because obviously us being up on stage, I wasn't really kind of like in that mindset. I am very heard. I've literally got a microphone in my hand. I'm feeling very like an active participant in this. And then hearing that even people who didn't share their stories could relate to other people's stories, whether that was us on stage, whether it was the rest of the people in the audience, there was enough common ground there that everyone was kind of sharing their stories and understanding, oh yeah, I didn't realize other people felt like this way, or have been through similar things to me as well. I think there was a really nice kind of open discussion where even if you didn't ask a question or share a story, you still felt like you were part of something and part of the community and the conversation, which I think is really, really nice.
It's really important and really valuable, because it took me back a little bit, because during the last live where we had Willow from Stat and we were talking about authenticity, obviously before the night we sort of have a discussion, we have a plan, we know kind of what we want to cover and stuff, but it still surprises me what ends up coming out of my mouth sometimes, because I feel so safe and supported and secure. I feel like I can open up. And last time, I didn't even realize that this was part of my authenticity or my authentic story, but of course it is. But I shared my coming out story, and I had one of those out of body experiences of when I was speaking it, I was like, am I actually doing this? Is this actually happening? And it was lovely and it was wonderful. But the reason I'm saying this is afterwards, a couple of people from the LGBTQ plus community came to me and said, thank you so much for sharing that. Thank you so much for speaking up and sharing your story, because like you said, Jack, they felt heard. They felt that a story, something that personal around being authentic, they could 100% relate with, and they started sharing their stories, and they started being really open and vulnerable with me, and I was like, crikey, that is really something, isn't it?
I think also because there are things that we hear about people saying I'm suffering from burnout or imposter syndrome or anxiety or lacking of confidence, and these are challenges that the industry has. We know it, people talk about it, it's out there. What hasn't been out there is, okay, so what are we going to do about it? And all three of us are really passionate about moving that forward, taking it from just being a challenge to something that has a solution. And we all find a way of doing it in our own way. Sarah, and you and I do it through the podcast, the three of us through the live podcast. So when people say they feel heard, it's not surprising because it's the sort of topics that we are covering. And what makes me really glad, and what gladdens my heart, is that when you talked about the sponsors, it's not just about getting sponsorship to cover costs. Obviously, those costs have to be covered. But what makes me happy is that there are people in the industry who also want to push that conversation forward and find solutions. So we're doing our bit to help. They're doing their bit to help us so we can help. And it's a really wonderful ecosystem that's being created. And I truly believe that it is the beginning of something that's going to be so beneficial to the industry, not just this live podcast, not just our podcast, but the more solution focusedness of it that's going to help the industry at large.
I'm excited and here for the journey and to see what happens. And little brag, but this just goes to show how needed this event is and how much people were wanting to come. Is we sold out twice last time, didn't we? Mm-hmm. So we reached our first goal. We spoke to the venue and we were like, what's the chances of, increasing the old capacity? They were like, okay, go and do that. We increased the numbers and then we sold out again. So I think, not just to brag, but I think the reason why I'm bringing this up is to show that what we're doing is needed, and it's not that it's so much of a lifeline. Maybe it is a lifeline for some people, but I think people come to these events and they get so much from it. And it's just so wonder, and I feel like I'm getting a bit emotional, and I could cry a little bit right now, but it's so great that we are creating this space, we're creating this opportunity, and we're doing something. We're showing up for our community, aren't we? We're showing up for the industry. Other people are showing up for the industry, and I'm just so appreciative of it all.
Can I share a story? So there was this lady that was talking to me, and she signed up, she came along, but she had come to Brighton SEO with her husband. He wasn't into SEO, but they were treating it as a mini break. She dragged him along to this live podcast, and the next day she said to me, it's like he's a different man. He's talking about feelings.
There we go. We're breaking down
about feelings.
We'll break down toxic masculinity one man at a time as well. That was the last topic I discussed on the last time I was on SEO Mindset. So.
Oh, dear.
Right, so shall we take a short break, and when we come back for part 2, we can discuss more about the topic, why you should come, and other wonderful stuff relating to this subject, really. Does that sound good?
Brilliant.
Introducing Clear Narrative Media, a purpose-led media marketing agency that transforms how founders, creatives, and organizations share their stories online. Dedicated to assisting you with all your marketing, content, and strategy needs. Their services include photography, consultancy, and social media management. Clear Narrative Media is here to transport your visions to life. They are on a mission to help you to create awareness, build visibility, and enhance your business and professional growth overall. For more information, head over to their website at cnmedia.com or follow the link in the show notes. Sarah here.
And me, Tazmin.
And don't forget me, Jack.
So, gang, what are we all doing here?
Jack, why don't you do the honours?
What an honour. Thank you so much. Drum roll, please.
Sorry, we don't have that sound effect, and unfortunately, my skills just don't stretch that far.
Oh, fair enough. Maybe next time. But we do have some very, very exciting news for you all, because not one, not two, but 3 successful live podcasts. We are back once again. Search with Candour and the SEO Mindset podcast are teaming up again to record a podcast in front of a live audience.
Yes, that's right. And I am very excited. So join us for a raw and authentic conversation about career planning, but without the overwhelm. We'll be sharing practical advice, tips, plus our own personal experiences.
I am so excited, and this is all free to attend. There's going to be pizza, snacks, and drinks included. Again, free. It's happening the night before Brighton SEO. We're starting at 7 on Wednesday, the 2nd of October. Tickets are now up for grabs, and last time we sold out. Well, technically we sold out twice. So if you are interested in joining us, please, please, please grab your tickets now before they all go.
And help us spread the word as well. If you or your colleagues or your friends are going to be in Brighton or attending Brighton SEO coming up in October, the more the merrier. Please all come along and join us.
We'll pop a link in the show notes so you can get more information and grab your tickets. We look forward to seeing you on the night.
Hi, Sarah here. Just quickly reminding you of the ways that you can support the podcast. So if you enjoy what me and Tazmin are doing, there are a couple of ways that you can support us. We are set up on Buy Me a Coffee. That means that you can give us a one-off donation. If you fancy doing that, there's a link in the show notes, and we would be very, very appreciative of that. You can also sign up to our newsletter. So if you want to keep up to date with the latest, with what's going on, episodes, events, anything and everything that me, Tazmin, and the podcast are up to, you can do that by signing up to our newsletter, and you can unsubscribe at any time.
We're back from the break, and we're going to talk about the details about the event itself. Going to kind of discuss the topic a little bit. Going to get into the topic a little bit, but not too much, because you're going to have to actually come to the live podcast to get all the details, get all the tips, get all the advice, and share your stories with us. But the topic is actually talking about career planning without overwhelming yourself, and specifically strategic career planning. So you're not just kind of winging it a little bit. You're going to try and be a little bit more strategic, which is definitely something I struggle with, because I am not a planner in general. My ADHD brain is very short term, very like, what's happening now? I need to do 5 things at once. I don't think I've ever had like a long term, like when I was a kid thinking, oh, I want to be this when I grow up, or anything like that. It was very kind of all over the place. And before kind of fairly recent, probably my 30s, to be honest. I'm now 33 at the time of recording. We'll be 34 by the time the live podcast comes around. And I was kind of thinking like, I should probably work out what I actually like about my job and what I don't like, and what the options are available and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Sarah, is it a similar kind of story for you? I know you've recently had a fairly significant career change with you going freelance and stuff, right?
Yeah. I've just realised me and you, Jack, we're practically the same age, because I am also 33. I'm a little bit younger than you, to
right,
brag about that, because I don't turn 34 until January. So I've got a bit more of the youth. No, I'm joking. I mean, while we were talking about career planning, something funny did come into my mind. And at school, you know how you do your pictures and you do like, this is what I want to be when I'm older. Young Sarah wanted to be a butterfly lady.
What does that
Still
even
to
mean?
this day, I have no idea what a butterfly lady is.
Are you like catching the butterflies and then studying them? So you've got the little preserved butterflies and the little
Well,
cases and stuff, whatever that's called.
hopefully not, because that's not very fitting with my vegan ways, is it?
Not really. Or and maybe you could work in like a butterfly house in a zoo or something, because you have the
Maybe.
insect houses where you go in and it's all really humid and stuff, and it's like this big greenhouse. You could go in like a little butterfly house in a zoo
I
or
mean,
something.
who knows? Who knows? But yeah, I thought that's just something that always sticks in my mind is like, you, Sarah, you wanted to be a butterfly lady. But no,
Maybe it's a journey. Like you're going from young caterpillar Sarah to
yeah.
chrysalis Sarah to adult butterfly Sarah.
You're
Who
getting
knows?
very deep now, Jack. Very,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
deep. But for me, I've never really been a planner, just like you. I'm more, I go with the flow, and something that I've realised is I'm a yes person. So throughout my career so far, I just happen to say yes to things. If I enjoy them, I do more of it. If I don't enjoy it, I stop doing it. So I've never really known what I want to do. I've never sat down and had a plan, or I've never really thought, okay, in 5 years' time, I want to do this. In 10 years' time, I want to do this. I sort of go a bit on a whim, a little bit. But I do want to get a bit more strategic. And one of the reasons why I don't plan is because of the overwhelm, which is what this is all about, isn't it? Because it just feels too big and scary for me to have this plan, have my career sorted, have my career settled. Because I don't really know what that means for me. Yes, recently I have had a career shift, and I've gone from being employed to being freelance. And one of the reasons I did that was because I wanted to do more of what I loved. And for me to do that, I had to be a freelance SEO consultant and a podcast producer. I had to take that step and try it out for myself. So now that I am freelance, and now that I've got my own thing, I think having a plan is even more important as well, because I need something to work towards. I need to know what is success for me. I need to make sure that I'm happy and I'm fulfilled. But the only way that I know how to do that is if I've got a plan, I've got a bit of a structure, I know what I'm trying to aim towards. So I want to come away from doing stuff off the cuff and being a bit more strategic. Like, I still want to have a bit of flexibility and try different things, because I think that mindset has played its role and it's where I am today. But I still want to be a bit more strategic. Tazmin, what are your thoughts on this?
So I didn't grow up around people that planned their careers. In fact, I never really, we didn't think about it as a career. You had a job, you did your job, you did your thing, you came back home again. And it wasn't until I would say my 40s that I was introduced to the concept of goal setting. I didn't know that you could have a goal and work towards it. It was brand new to me. But at the time, I was then in an organization that had people like that. So it felt more natural to have a plan than not have a plan. I would say, having been both types of people, of those people, you achieve more if there is a plan. You are more motivated if you have a vision of what you are going towards. You get more done. And I am now such a planner to the point where every so often I will look at, what do I want to do? So currently I'm on a like a 4 week sprint of, this is what I want to get done in the next 4 weeks. What does that mean in terms of actions? How often do I have to take those actions? When am I going to do them? So I have, a spreadsheet with all of the actions I'm going to take this week, next week, next week, next week. Then I'll have a week off to assess, did I get where I want to do, readjust the action. So that's how I am operating at the minute. Because it's like you said, when you're freelance and when you're doing multiple things, if you're not careful, time runs away and the money doesn't come in, or the leads don't come in, or the podcast doesn't get done, which isn't an option anymore. But I think if you were to come to me and say and hired me as an accountability coach, or if you'd gone to a PT and said, I want to get fit, and they or me turn around and said, yeah, okay, great, yeah, so what do you want to achieve? Okay, yes, goal 1, goal 2, goal 3. Oh, we'll just wing it. You would feel dissatisfied with that service because it wouldn't get you where you wanted to be. So if you would be dissatisfied with that service, somebody else that you're paying someone else for, then why are you being a poor service to yourself?
Very good question, Tazmin. Very good question. Yeah. And I think it's really hard, isn't it? Because we're all very good at giving others great advice, great support, great guidance. But when it comes to actually doing it ourselves, I know I'm not very good.
You and me both, Sarah. Absolutely.
I think this is where it's important to have someone else help you. Because they will ask you those questions that you won't ask yourself and keep you accountable. But how do I feel about career planning without overwhelming? Just be gentle, take it bit by bit, be kind to yourself. But, even if it's one step in the right direction, take it.
Yeah, definitely. And I really can't wait for this conversation to happen more in depth in a few weeks' time, because I can't wait to get into more of this conversation with you both. We're gonna give some really good practical tips and advice. We'll also have the section where our audience will join in, so they'll either ask a question themselves or they will share their own experiences. But I think personally and selfishly, I'm going to get so much out of it because, it's something that I definitely need to do, but I just always put it off because overwhelm is scary, isn't it? And I mean, how do you deal with overwhelm, Jack?
Not well. It's probably the answer to that. I panic and overwork and tend to do the very ADHD thing of doing an entire day's worth of work in an hour and just absolutely cramming. I did this all through my academic career, all through college and university. And until fairly recently, I'm now, going through processes, which I will discuss at the live podcast, of being more aware of this kind of stuff and being more aware of my timings and deadlines and all that kind of stuff, and making sure I'm not just, oh God, everything is last minute, everything is panic stations, everything, and just feeling constantly exhausted and overwhelmed, and then realizing when it gets to Friday afternoon, I'm like, oh, I've just been cramming the entire week, which means I've just been on, 110% the entire week, and now I'm exhausted. Now I've got a few techniques, and certainly I'm on new medication, which certainly helps as well with my ADHD. That's going to help kind of plan a bit more and bring a bit more structure to both my work life and my personal life as well. Because I found a lot for me, especially my previous role, and again, I'll go into more details about my weird career path on the live podcast, where I was working from home a lot through the pandemic, and I really struggled to get that separation between what's home, what's work. Well, I'm home already, so I may as well just work an extra hour or two since I'm sat at this desk anyway. And that was a really, really dangerous habit for me to get into, because I had not planned I'm going to get this work done, and then maybe 6 months later I'll apply for the manager's job and then work through that and then all this kind of stuff. I was just constantly keeping up with my own pace and not actually going that one step further and working out how to progress anything. And it was kind of very, very tiring at the time, and why I left that job partly. So,
I mean, I've just thought of a good analogy, and it's so me and my partner Tash, we will always
your fiance. Are we allowed to say that on the podcast?
Fiance.
Are we allowed to say that if we're getting personal?
Oh, that word just makes me laugh, though. Fiance. Yeah, I've realised that you can't say fiance in a normal way. You say it with a bit of flair, don't you?
Yeah. It's got to have the little French twang to it at the end.
Fiance. My eyebrows are doing all weird things right now. But yeah, we always plan our weekly shop. So we do. Stay with me here. There is a reason why I'm saying this. I've not gone off on one here. But yeah, we plan our weekly shop. We plan our foods so we know what we're going to eat. We've got a plan. We've got a structure. And that helps us not feel overwhelmed. And that also makes sure that there's no food wastage. And it also makes sure that we're eating nutritious food and we're not always getting a takeaway or eating something quick and easy. And the same principles can be said about your life and your career, right? If you've got a plan and structure, and there can be flexibility as well, don't worry, you should give yourself some flexibility in that plan, but making sure that you have a plan for your career, you can make sure that like you are always working towards a goal, that you are giving yourself what you need to make sure that you're successful and fulfilled, that you're not wasting time and energy doing stuff that you shouldn't. So there's lots of benefits, isn't there? And again, something that we'll talk about more on the night. But Tazmin, anything else that's coming into your mind before we wrap up?
I really like the last point that you made, because you could be overwhelmed if you don't career plan. Because if you then spend lots and lots of time and energy doing things that are wrong for where you want to get to, where you're not aligned with what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, then that's going to cause exhaustion, overwhelm. And one of the reasons people do burn out is because they're doing work that's not aligned to them. So that's a really valuable point to make, that although career planning is avoided because it can seem overwhelming, actually not career planning can be just as overwhelming.
It's a catch 22. Is that the right way of using?
Yeah.
Vicious cycle.
I totally agree with you, Sarah. Like the meal planning thing for my wife Emma and I has been a big part of us making sure we have a bit of structure to it. Like you said, you then have one less thing to it. You kind of filter it all down into a single. We do it on like a Saturday afternoon, so it arrives on Sunday, ready to start the week on Monday, kind of thing. And we've gotten into the ritual now of doing that and making sure it's ready. And that also involves like planning lunches for work and stuff. So I'm not waking up, having to rush for the bus, trying to work out how and what lunch am I going to have. Is there anything in the freezer I can take with me? Oh, we don't have a freezer at work, but I could use this thing, and that's not going to defrost in time, and the panic and all. Like I said, the overwhelm we were just talking about. Now we have it all planned out. It's like, oh, I know, we can bulk cook this particular meal, and then that will serve me for the next 3 lunches. Or just knowing what's happening in the evening means I don't have okay, I'm on my way home from work. Do I need to grab something now? Do I need to call my wife as she's coming home from work? Do we need to coordinate anything? There's all this extra stuff to worry about. Exactly the same thing with your career. If you have a rough idea of where you're going, you don't have to stick to it 100 times. You mentioned having a sneaky little takeaway there, Sarah. Like, we are totally guilty of that. Of like, okay, it does say we need to cook this thing tonight, but we don't have the energy. Let's be cheeky. Let's, do a freezer meal or whatever it is. But we will come back around to that later on. And I think that's been a big part for me in my career of like, even if I don't achieve this goal now, I can come back around to it later. I can, even if I don't have the energy to fill out this job application form or have this conversation about a pay rise or whatever it is that's the next step in your career, it's always going to be there in the future. There's going to be other opportunities. There's going to be other things you can do. And if you don't have the energy now, don't feel like you have to absolutely force yourself. Like you said, there's still the room for flexibility. But I think having a rough idea and a guide takes the pressure off of like, oh God, now I need to suddenly make this huge decision. And rather than I need to make this huge career, life-changing decision on basically no notice, you've actually given yourself that notice to kind of plan a little bit further in advance. Say, well, yeah, we've been talking about this for weeks, for months. I'm aware of what's going on. There's not so much of the sudden like surprise of something big happening.
Do you know what? This conversation is just, we've already covered
It's a little taster.
It's a little taster, yeah.
Speaking of meal planning.
So
This is the lunch for the dinner that is the live podcast. There you go.
It's the amuse-bouche.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
amuse-bouche. Again, another word that you can't say without your eyebrows. Amuse-bouche. So, I think, yeah, I think that's it for now, because you're just going to have to join us on the night, aren't you? Because we're going to be having more of these conversations. We're going to be sharing more tips, more strategies. You yourself can get involved as well. There's also the talking before and after the event, eating pizza, having some drinks and snacks. You know, we've got it all going on. So
what more could you want?
What more? I'm very much looking forward to it. Very, very much looking forward to it. Part of me wants October and the event to hurry up and be here tomorrow. But also, I know how much we've got to plan.
Speaking of planning, we've got planning to do.
So yeah, right. Jack, just a reminder of the key information. So dates, logistics, that lovely stuff.
It's on Wednesday, the 2nd of October, 2024. That's the day before the main Brighton SEO conference kicks off on Thursday, the 3rd. It's starting at 7 p.m. at Projects The Lanes in Brighton. As Sarah mentioned earlier, it is very, very close to the Brighton Centre where Brighton SEO is happening. Even if you're not attending Brighton SEO, you can still come along. If you're going to be in Brighton at that time, you don't have to have a Brighton SEO ticket. It's not like a requirement or anything like that. You can just come along. We had quite a few people come along to previous events who just happened to be in the local tech community or the local marketing community. Whatever it was, you're welcome to come along if you're in Brighton on Wednesday, the 2nd of October. Like I said, Projects The Lanes, all the links and stuff will be in the video description, show notes and all that kind of stuff. Wherever you're watching or listening, you can click, and it's all in Eventbrite. So if you want to search career planning without overwhelming yourself, you can find the live podcast link in Eventbrite as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. So yeah, no excuse. And reminder that we did sell out not once but twice, so it is a popular event, so please do get your tickets. Tazmin,
So what if somebody is not in Brighton? What can they do to join?
oh, good question. Are you answering that question, or do you want me to answer that question?
I will hand it to you two.
Well, yes, you don't have to physically be there, so there's lots of ways that you can watch during the event. So the event itself will be live streamed to Silicon Brighton's YouTube channel. So we'll make sure that there's a link in the show notes to that, and then you can watch along with that. Jack, you'll be sharing it on Search with Candour feeds, right?
Yep, so it'll be in both audio and video format as we are now with Search with Candour. So that'll be on our YouTube channel probably a couple of weeks after it goes live. Give me a chance to download the video and upload it and all that kind of stuff. And also it'll be in audio forms on Search with Candour and the SEO Mindset podcast feed as well.
Yes, it will be available there an hour after the... No, I joke. I won't get around to it that quickly.
Imagine you in your hotel room just frantically downloading the MP3. And,
gotta do this before Jack. This is a little competition. No. Yeah, it'll be available a few days, weeks afterwards. So there's lots of ways that you can still get involved. But if you can actually join on the night in person, then obviously that's where you can have a more active role and eat the pizza, because you can't eat the pizza and enjoy the snacks and ask questions if you don't join live. So yes, so make sure, literally just wherever this is posted, check the show notes, check the description, check the links anywhere, and you'll be able, everyone point all around your faces. And we very much look forward to you guys joining us, right?
Definitely. Looking forward to it. Can't wait to see
so.
people who I didn't see last time, hang out at Brighton SEO and have lots of questions and share lots of stories.
One quick question for you both that I want you to answer. Jack, one reason why people should attend. Go.
Free pizza. What more could you want?
Tazmin?
Free pizza, yes, but also it's a beautiful event. You will not regret it. I guarantee you that.
And you get to hang out with me, Jack, and Tazmin in person. So there you go. 3 reasons why it's an event not to miss.
Exactly. Hopefully we'll see a bunch of you in October. Fingers crossed. It'll be nice to say hello.
Indeed. Until then, take care of yourselves, and goodbye. Looking to create awareness, build visibility, and enhance growth for your business, organization, or yourself? Introducing Clear Narrative Media, a purpose-led media and marketing agency that transforms how founders, creatives, and organizations share their stories online. Dedicated to assisting you with all your marketing, content, and strategy needs. You can find them on all social media platforms and online at cnmediaa.com or follow the link in the show notes.